I like that because you're a learner probably and you want to learn as much as you can. So that's awesome. Okay.
That's exactly
Okay.
it.
Thank you. Okay. We're glad to have you here as a visitor. So if you want to think about joining us, we'll talk about that later too. So, well, it is 4:34, so I'm going to call the meeting of the annual report committee to order right now at 4:34. So thank you guys again. We have a couple of voting agenda items, but before we get into that, I do want to thank Chair Small for filling in for me, serving as my proxy back in June. I was on vacation. I wasn't in Colorado, but I was in Italy. So that was a very nice thing to be able to be away and know that everything was in good hands. So thank you, Chair Small.
Most welcome.
Okay, okay. So we've got some voting items to approve, and it would be our minutes. So do we have a motion to approve our minutes from our annual report committee meeting on June the 10th?
And
I
motion.
move.
Okay,
Second.
okay. Is there any discussion? Okay,
Here.
votes for,
Favor.
votes against? There are none, so the motion passes. So thank you so much. The second voting item we have is looking at the 26-27 goals and objectives. That's going to be recommended to the commission next week. We're going to put that one aside for a little bit so we can go through our deck and talk about that's more in our the presentation that Glenn's going to do. And that will give us more context and he can discuss that with us. So going from there, I'm going to let Glenn go through the briefings and
Great.
present any questions that you have with Glenn.
Let's do it. Before we get started, if you don't have it already opened, I would highly recommend opening the annual report outline that Drea sent out earlier, and then click on the link that she sent as well to the annual report from last year for reference, just to see sort of, especially like the tables or the charts and graphs and maps and all those sorts of things as we talk through the outline later. You can sort of see both the text and the visuals that we'll sort of be referencing. But let's move forward. All right. Just as a refresher reminder, looking at our annual report requirements, August is when we start for next year, right? We've had a couple of meetings prior to talk about, as we've talked about, our goals from this current year, how we're tracking that, moving to a SharePoint site, all of that kind of fun stuff. But now we're starting to get into the nitty-gritty of prepping for the report for our submission next February. So our components are that we submit the report for FY 25-26 by February 1 of 27. It needs to be submitted to the city manager. We'll have a cover letter that's signed by the chair. And the contents need to have a table of contents, a mission statement, guiding principles, which you'll see in our outline, a summary and highlights of the year, objectives, accomplishments, and programs for the coming year, board recommendations, and other information. Those need to be distributed amongst multiple parties and departments throughout the city, and also to the mayor and city council office and the city manager's office for development guidance. The formatting is such, we will of course format it in a wonderful booklet way like we did last year, but we submit it as a single pager, 8.5 by 11, with a cover page and our logo. We have to include a minority report or a statement that we have no minority reports if any commissioner would like to submit those as a part of our process. And it goes through a compliance review with the city secretary's office to make sure all is well. We've never had any issues with that in the past, so I don't foresee any in the future, ideally. Next. All right. Oh, we're going to pause on that one as we move forward to our annual report timeline. Oh, I'm sorry. I read that wrong earlier when we met. This is our progress report. Please go back. So we should, I would imagine, want to take this into consideration as we talk about our goals for next year. In previous meetings, we've discussed keeping the goals similar, but again, we'll have that discussion in a minute. Drea wanted to pool our sort of progress report for how submissions and committee participation and other goals that have been set for this current fiscal year and sort of where we're at with that. All of this is very new, and especially that new online submission process. And so it's very green. giving people the chance, our commissioners, the chance to learn a new process and all of that. So, but just as that progress report for organization liaison engagements, this is those liaison reports that our commissioners submit with their assigned organizations. We have 10 total submissions from those districts there. I don't need to read this all out to you. We do, however, have a super high committee participation rate, which I think is really wonderful. And Commissioner Stachel, to your point, I think, and when we were talking about the tracking of everything, we just track that. And so it's not anything that y'all have to worry about. We just refer to our minutes to see where that is. And so Commissioner Henderson, you being here, contributes to this particular metric, which I think is really wonderful. Communication and collaboration, that's communication with your council members, access to facilities and resources. It's finding, different venues or spaces that artists or organizations may be able to use and having that sort of listed out. And then our funding programs, cultural events and engagements. This I know, just no one submitted anything because of course all of you are incredibly active with our arts ecosystem. And so it's just, again, training our commissioners to start submitting when they're at different events and letting us know. So that's sort of where we're at. I don't really have anything more to add to this. I think it's neither good nor bad. It's just the beginning of our process of reporting these things out to this committee.
Thank you so much, Glenn. Thank you, Glenn. Any questions?
Okay, great. All right, let's look at a timeline. Oh, let me look at mine because it'll be a little bit closer. I feel like my age is showing in my eyes. Okay. All right, so you'll see the shaded out portions right there. We've already had those meetings. And just as a sort of a preface, full commission will always be a step behind us, of course, right? And sometimes that means our meetings are a little wonky in how we lay all of this out. But today, right, we briefed on our annual report progress. We've talked about our annual report requirements for the upcoming year. We're talking about our timeline. We're going to discuss evergreen content. But most importantly, as Chair Bedell mentioned, we'll look at recommending the FY 26-27 goals to commission with the idea that we could start October 1, even though the report's not done, with everyone knowing what those goals are. We find ourselves in the past couple of years that those goals aren't finalized until January. And so I think it'll be really, really great to know what commission's goals are at the beginning of the year. So we'll do that today. Those will go to commission next week at the commission meeting for their recommendation, review and recommendation. We've also built into the timeline, if they would like to defer for more time for feedback or something like that, that we give another month, September, right? So if we do need to make any adjustments, we can bring them back to this committee for that recommendation to take that back in September. So we always want to build in a little bit more time. Meanwhile, our September meeting for the annual report committee, we will start looking at a content draft review for the annual report. Next slide, please. October, the annual report committee will be looking at a design draft, no photos, because I don't want us to just get distracted, but we'll have placeholders for photos so we can see what that design looks like. We get very distracted with photos. But we will make sure, just like we did last year, to include more and more as we have them. We've done so many great things this current fiscal year that we'll have plenty to choose from. Then October for commission, right? Like I said, always one step behind. They will get that content draft, no photos, for their feedback and their review. Then our annual report committee will be looking at a second review of the design draft and then, of course, it will go to commission. And then in December, the annual report committee will review the sort of a final review draft of the annual report for final notes and all of that, because then we will be able to hand it over to commission for their input, right? Because we get all of that to bring that back to the annual report committee for a final sort of work over any notes that we get from full commission. We can those if necessary and all of that, for a recommendation in January by the committee, for commission to make that final recommendation towards the end of January for our submission deadline of February 1. And that's that.
Do you guys have any questions?
Great.
I have a question. And this goes out to Glenn and Chair. So at the August meeting, would it be appropriate for us to have Sylvia announce in her report that for the September meeting, we will discuss our progress towards the goals so that it won't be a surprise to the commission when they see what that progress report looks like.
I think that's a really good idea. Because I mean, I know that I've attended stuff and I haven't submitted, I mean, I'm on this committee and I haven't submitted my attendance at events and haven't done my report. I think it would be nice if we gave everybody sort of a heads up, hey, get your reports in so we
Yes.
can talk about what we've done, how we're hitting our goals. But I also think based on, I mean, so I guess I'm almost a year now on here, and I know that when we had the discussion with the full committee last year, there were some discussions about the goals and about were they too aggressive with the amount of events that we need to attend and the reports that we need to do for us to meet our goals. And so my guess is, given the fact that so many of the commissioners haven't submitted reports, that we're also going to get some pushback that maybe the goals are a little more aggressive than are realistic for us to meet.
Do you want to speak into that?
Oh,
Small.
she pretty much hit on the head exactly why I raised the question. So, yeah.
I will also say, yes, and I agree with you, and that I haven't filled out anything either, and I've been involved in this process from the beginning. So it really is creating a new practice that we get used to and encouraging people to do that. And it's so easy now because it's in the link. It's so everything we need to do is just click on the link and they're in all of your emails. So we appreciate that. And so we need to remind everybody where to find the links. And that's something that we can do too.
Absolutely.
And I do welcome new feedback from, what you observed last year, because you're right. In the past, we have pared these goals down from 16 goals to
Like
nine to five,
Yeah.
now to 6. So we're really working on streamlining the process of reporting, and then also making our goals attainable. So that's any other feedback you have on that, we welcome that. But we will want to present that, and I agree with you on showing what we're doing and encouraging people for the
Yes.
next meeting. Mhm.
Yes, and because I think the friendly nudge
Mhm.
combined with the presentation that Glenn and Dre are going to make on how easy it is,
Yeah.
will get these in order.
Wonderful. And so we'll make a note to include the progress report in the September meeting, or just as a reminder, and we'll have a slide for that. And Commissioner Stachel, to your point, two things. One, we'll look at those goals, just like you were mentioning about sort of the metrics and things like that. And so we'll have that conversation in just a minute. So this is a very appropriate time to bring that up. And then the other is, my hope is, again, all is a part of this process. That'll take some time, but as we launch our SharePoint site, getting everyone in with their emails, ideally being able to pull up that SharePoint and you'll be able to click very quickly or add a photo if you wanted to, things like that, that I think will make it more appealing to submit something as opposed to be like, let me go into my email or whatever. So I am hoping that sort of we pull into this process that there is that landing page that we're able to do that, and it makes it more fun, but or at least more encouraging to submit. So well taken. Thank you. All right.
Commissioner Henderson, it looks like you're thinking wheels are turning.
I'm still processing. I think what's been shared is probably some of the same thoughts. So I don't think there's anything I would add.
All right. So Drea sent out an annual report outline where basically I copy and pasted all of the all of the text, all of the copy, and included some bullet points on whether if it was graphics or maps or charts, things like that, that were included that of course would be updated as we move forward. But I want to look through a lot of the evergreen content is like a description of a cultural center, right? We can copy and paste that. That's not changing. And I don't see why we would want to, right? But of course, working with the cultural centers to find out what their key events were for the year. So I want to look through that, which is why I asked you to open that earlier. And then if you wanted to reference last year's cultural plan, you'll see how all of that was laid out or what a chart or a map looked like for some of these. And so we'll just go through on the slides that you'll see. It's much more high level. And so I just wanted to make sure you also had the document with the full copy of everything in there. If you had a chance to read it, awesome. If you have any notes or suggestions or thoughts in the future, please email Drea with those at the OAC Commission email, and we can certainly bring those up with the chair and in future meetings. Great. All right. So we have our cover page as required by the report. We'll have our, City of Dallas approved and submitted page, our table of contents, a letter from the director, which will work with Martine, our Director Philippe, and Chair Bedell to get that shored up by the submission date. And then one of the new things we added in last year, which has been incredibly helpful, as we found out, both in advocacy and then to also, I think, explain just in general what the department does and show our impact, is our year in review. And so last year we sort of took it by sort of large divisions, if you will, or operations of the department. And so we had an overall OAC metric as it's written there, what our cultural centers did in total, both with signature events and new exhibits, our funding programs, how much they allocated to whom, which artists, how many organizations, how many events that supported, how many were in attendance based off of all of our final reports from what we handed out, which is incredibly significant. Good job, Julia and Rhonda. Our marketing, where Ashley was really trying to grow our engagement on online platforms and then helping us out in that way. And then of course, what our public art team and the incredible work that they did in installations and dedications for the year. We could certainly, again, this is just from last year, right? So this is the time also to think about, is there another kind of metric we want to look at to add to really look at that year in review? And so if you have ideas now, awesome. If not, again, take it, think on it, and all of that.
Does everybody have their copy of last year's annual report that you received in the meeting?
Can I ask a question? Do we have, or would it be appropriate for us to say something about, and I don't even know if there's a way to quantify this, but is there a way to say that the economic impact or benefit that the arts have had on the greater Dallas community? Is there a way to quantify or monetize? We say what we get from the city and what we distribute, but it would be nice if we said, here's the return on investment. Is there any way to quantify that?
We actually have that. Thank you, Commissioner Stottshill. We do have that in Martine's letter. So letter from the director. So we go into those numbers, and that's what this was a new piece that we added last year too. Because so that is in there. And we can also maybe look at weaving that in throughout some other places too. So I think that's a good idea, because I think we are an economic engine and we do benefit North Texas, and people come here for the arts. And I mean, businesses come here for the arts. They relocate here because we've got strong arts. So I think that is an important message. Yes.
And as we're fighting for every single dollar, I would really like to present sort of a business person's perspective that the arts are important to our community. Give us money and we will give you more than we'll give more back than what you give us. And so I would like to see that be a little more of a focus in the annual report this year.
Okay, duly noted. I totally agree. And go back and look at Martine's letter. And if there's some things that we can add that into that, because we will do bullet points for her to do her letter, and we'll make sure anything else that's missing out of that is in there.
Yeah, I just want to agree. I think thoughtfully weaving that like sentiment throughout other parts, like it's great that it's in the letter, but throughout the rest of the report, I totally agree, especially with the economic impact that we know we're having. Like, I definitely hope that that's a major takeaway that readers have.
Mhm.
And I think it can be, I mean, I love that, and I see that it's in her letter, but in the the year in review, I think it needs to be right there, front and center. This was our budget. This is what we did. Here's the impact we returned to the community.
That's great. Thank you. I agree. So adding that to the year in review and I think some other places as well. So we'll look at doing that.
Yeah, I'll see how we start to filter that or sort of add those points in.
I'm going to make a note right now.
Thank you. All right, moving, slide before, please. All right, we'll have an about the Office of Arts and Culture section with and about our office, vision, mission, guiding principles, again, as required by the report. Then we move into our Arts and Culture Advisory Commission page. And of course, all of that text, that copy is included in the larger outline. Then as we move into the Arts and Culture Advisory Commission, again, it's sort of a description of the commission, the function, how many members, all of that jazz, which is really wonderful. And then we move into our standing and ad hoc committees. Each one has a description of those committees and then the committee members. And all of this is as of September 30 of this year. So whoever is in whatever position or seat or on which committees, all of that, we look at September 30, 2026. And so you'll see in your copy that those have not been updated because we'll wait until September 30 because we have a little bit of shifting going on right now. We have a new commissioner coming on board, all that wonderful stuff. And so we just haven't updated those figures yet, but there is some evergreen content in the description of those committees and what they do. Same with our list of commissioners there as well and our at-large commissioners. All right. Then we move into our cultural services contracts, like high level section where we have our funding, we have a little bit of description there, our funding programs. And now here we can sort of talk about are the visuals that we provided sort of enough and the sort of data that we provided enough. And so if we look through the actual report after the description, we'll see that for our funding programs, we have for COP, for the Cultural Organizations Program, we have a funding allocation summary table. And so it's organization tier, so what their sort of operational size is that we sort of outline there, the amount of funding for that particular tier, what % of budget that was, how many organizations were funded out of that. All of that exists in that table. And then we have a table after that, and this I think we put in for all of our funding programs to show number of events in attendance by council district. That was a big pool, I think, a couple of years ago, and we really figured out how to do that pretty well. Thanks GIS to help target all of those. And so for COP, that makes a lot of sense to have those two tables to show which organizations we're supporting and how large those organizations are. And of course, what is happening in each district by event in attendance, which I think is really, for a report that comes from the commission, it makes sense, right, for who you're representing. Any questions on that one? Any thoughts on what else you might like to see? Again, today is great. We can think about it more too.
Glenn, I would just like to add, hang on, let me pull that actual, on the table that has the funding allocation summary and talks about the organization tier. It has tier 1 and the monetary amount. I think I would just add a little thing that says based on the annual operating budget of the organization or something like that, because I think let's just explain what those ranges are.
Absolutely. That is very fantastic. Thank you. You're right. That's not there. Oh, God, we make so many assumptions sometimes because we work with it all the time. So I appreciate that. All right.
We're excited to have fresh eyes this year. Thank
All right,
you.
yes. Great. All right. Then we move beyond. Oh, can you go to the slide before, please? Then we move from the Cultural Organizations Program to prepping to discuss Arts Activate by having a description of our cultural typologies And so we have both how those typologies were created or what metrics were used to create our cultural typologies. We wanted to make sure we included that, and which actually came in handy, especially when we're working on our federal compliance, that this is all something that we're able to continue to use through Arts Activate, and when it comes to, getting things out to areas that are either highly residential or non-traditional, if you will. Then we move to Arts Activate as a program, and we have a series of tables and maps. So we have our events and attendance by council district. Then we have event locations by council district, the council district map, which is really helpful, I think. And then we have events and attendance by typology, so we can see where things are happening in the urban core, in our mixed urbanism area, residential arts and non-traditional, and of course a correlating map to show the same locations, right, from the district map, but now you can see where they lie in the typologies, right? So we can see where the spread of these things are happening, and sort of our impact on pushing things outside, which was a big part of Arts Activate, pushing things outside of our urban core and getting them into more of those mixed urbanism or residential areas, right? And showing our impact in spreading the love of our arts and culture projects. I'll stop there. Any
questions?
Great. This one, I do love this page. It's a really great page. All right, if I do say so myself. What you won't see, thank you so much. What you won't see is anything about culture of value in this annual report because of our shifting timelines for culture of value last year due to federal compliance, our federal compliance work. We pushed culture value 2025 to the late fall, so after the fiscal year. So in our new report, we'll see both the cultural value that we did in November, I believe, and the cultural value we're doing now in August. And so we'll have both of those reports added into this year's annual report. So how that will look, we'll probably do something similar as an events and attendance. Actually, yeah, no, I think last year we did something, we showed the locations by council district.
Yes.
And then we showed the attendance, I think the attendance figures by that. So we were able to show where things were happening because we'll have at least 2 events in every council district. So having a number of events in attendance didn't make sense, but we'll list that out. And actually, I didn't think about that. I should have provided an example of that, and I'll bring that our next meeting from what we did the year before.
Are you talking about the culture of value?
Yes.
Okay, can you refresh my memory on what that is? Because I'm kind of, that seems kind of jargonish.
Yes.
So tell me what
So
that
Culture
is.
Value was a program that was birthed out of helping artists during COVID, and it's sort of morphed over time into the program that it is now, which is really wonderful, where it is a one-time service that an artist or an organization applies to perform. And we partner them with a library and a rec center in every council district across the city. So at minimum, depending on our budget, but at minimum, we have 2 events that happen in every single council district. It's been a very low cost, high impact program. And so I think in the last report that we did, we also showed the map of where these things were taking place. But it's something that we're able to, we don't have to go through a full contract because of the amount we pay. We just do what we call a requisition. And so it makes the process to getting funding for these artists much quicker. It's very much like a sorority, what's it called? Like recruitment matchup, to where libraries and rec centers volunteer to participate, and we provide them the artists, and they tell us what they need. We tell them what the artist needs, and we match them up, and they provide their service for a day, and then we're done. It's a really great way. And we've also worked on creating what we end up calling Culture Value Month. And so all of those events are stacked within whatever that month is, so we can really push out and celebrate all of this stuff that's happening this month for our residents in all these different districts.
I have a question, man.
Yes.
And Chair, question ask. Would it be appropriate for us to include a short blurb, because all this was Rhonda, and to include kind of or not all of it, but she certainly led the way for this. Could we include a blurb about her retirement in the annual report? Would that be inappropriate?
I think that would be fine. I can look at that. To be fair, Julia is the one who's led this program into
Okay.
what it is
Oh,
now.
okay.
But we can
I thought
certainly
it was-
find a way. I can write up something if that's the will of the committee to recognize Rhonda and her
I can
impact.
speak for me, but I think Rhonda has been important
I'm
enough.
fine with that.
We can put that in the CAP section, actually, and her
Okay.
CAP and community arts section. I think that
Like,
could be
like a
pretty
little
lovely.
picture.
She'll love that.
I do think the CAP section, that would work in that. And,
Yes.
you know, there could also be a mention in Martine's letter
Yeah.
recognizing, you know, her 25 years of service.
Well, I pulled all those metrics for her to show her impact over her tenure with
Yeah.
OAC. So I
Yeah.
can certainly pull something
Yeah,
together.
those-
Find a
those are
way to
great.
include Rhonda.
I think that would be lovely. Thank you for that. What a very, thank you. That's very nice. Okay, moving forward, speaking of community arts. So here I'll add that. And so I'll write some copy on that and some impact of Rhonda's work with her time at OAC.
Glenn, can I interrupt you just real
Oh,
quick?
absolutely.
I love the cultural value program. I don't understand why it's called that.
So great question. And I have the exact answer. So
Right.
while we were trying to develop a program to help support our artists, we were trying to figure out what to name it. And developing a culture of value is a specific, it's either a priority or a strategy in our cultural plan. And so
Right,
that
okay. That
that
makes
specific
sense.
phrase, that specific phrase jumped out, and I have to give credit actually to Adriana. She was the one who came up with it. Sort of jumped out as something special. And so we were like, okay, great, let's name it Culture of Value. And so I think it shows us, I mean, we can spin this in any particular direction, a culture of value around our artists and organizations that are providing our services, a culture of value around providing services in every council district. And so that's sort of where that came from. And I think we can all find, yeah.
So then in our explanation of what that program is, let's tie it back to the goal and say that this is something that we're doing because it's part of one of our goals and part of our, core mission or wherever it fits within in that explanation. Does that make sense?
It does completely. And we will do that. That's a great idea. Thank you.
And we didn't have this in last year's annual report, so we'll be able to come up with verbiage that clarifies it and gives context to it. So thank you.
That's
Perfect.
wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. The Community Arts Division will have a high level division description, which will include, of course, CAP and Community Arts, which exists under that division. We'll discuss we'll then move on to CAP with a description of the program. And then we will talk about the impact in a visual way. Where we will have a table, again, council district, number of events and attendance. We also have an events location by council district map. And same as Arts Activate, we will do the events and attendance by typology and an associated map, typology map to go with that. Cool. And then moving on to community arts, what we did last year, sorry, back one more. That's okay. Anticipate, I love it. We listed basically key events that community arts did with a description of those events. Last year, we listed out 6: Reimagine Vacancy, the Community Circus with Lone Star Circus they did, the Sustainable Arts and Nonprofit Residencies, AAPI Festival, and their Arts and Healing work at Parkland Hospital. Those were the ones that we highlighted last year. We'll highlight different initiatives and programs that were done this year. Some of which will be the same, AAPI being one of them. But yeah, that's what we did for that. All right, moving along. We're moving along to the public art program. We'll have a broad general division description, which is part of our evergreen copy. Then we move into, and this is all going to be new stuff based off of what they did this year, a list of the installations and dedications. And so that list included, the title of the work, the artist, the council district where that piece was installed or dedicated, and the address of that. We didn't include a map because it didn't seem an impactful visual, right? For I think it was 8 pieces.
I
But we
don't want a map because I don't have much public art in my district.
Fair enough.
I think you have more than I do, Ann. I'm District 10.
I've
We're
got
getting a
two.
new piece. Oh, okay. We are ahead of you. We're getting a new piece next week, so.
Great.
Okay.
All right. Oh, and then we move on to recognitions, education, and outreach. So the work that the public art team does in that realm, their education and storytelling initiatives, and any initiated projects that they have going on from the year that just didn't get that they didn't cross the finish line yet because they're just not done yet. All right. Moving on. I love this annual report. Okay, cultural venues. We had again our division description, and then all of these for every center or venue, right? We had the information, the evergreen kind of copy of those spaces, and then you'll see depending on whether they were a cultural center, a performance venue, or the Juanita Craft House and Museum has sort of a different number of bullet points. Sorry, they're playing music out there. And so we'll update with gallery exhibits from the year and signature events and festivals at the 4 centers. The Craft House, their signature programs and events, and then the Majestic Theater, we'll ask them for notable shows or events that they had at those venues. Oh, I forgot the Moody. Oh, sorry. That last Oak Cliff Cultural Center should say Moody Performance Hall. You could tell I copy and pasted. Oops. Okay. Any thoughts on that? Great. Moving on.
I do have a meeting.
On here I do, not on the slideshow. All right, then afterwards we move into partner managed venues where we have a description of what that means, right? That the city of Dallas, while we manage some, we also have partner managed venues that the city technically owns, but they operate. And so we list those out. That's it. That's all we do. That's all we've done.
Yeah.
And so we've listed them out by sort of the parent organization, if you will, that operates or manages those facilities and which ones those are, right? The Dallas Theater Center, of course, the CLETA, but also the HELT, and APPAC, not just the Winspear, but the Wiley, Strauss Square, Salmons Park, right? And clarifying that Dallas Black Dance Theater, as we know it as a building, is the old Moreland YMCA, of course, and so it's just to provide sort of that kind of detail. Great.
This year, we're going to be spending a little more time on the front end, getting some better photography. We had no photography of these venues that we could put in there, and they're beautiful facilities. So we're going to make sure we have those, including as well as our local
Yes,
centers.
all the
So,
centers and
yeah,
venues, and then
so-
we'll work on the photos of these.
yeah, so we're enhancing our library photography for this.
Thank you. Next. Municipal radio, we'll have a description of what that is. And of course, part of that is that we're in an operating management agreement. I can't think of the right title of the agreement with KERA to manage our classical radio station. We then have this we've had for quite a few years, our peer review panel program. And a description of that is, of course, right, we have that roster of panelists that we call upon to score and evaluate our applications for our funding programs and other, ad hoc calls. So we want to recognize the efforts of them and their impact. And so some key metrics have been, they've read, X number of pages of applications, they've listened more than X number of hours of presentations, wrote thousands of personalized comments, and volunteered X number of hours. I think it's just a really nice way to recognize the work of our volunteers.
Because they put in so much work.
Oh my God, so
If
much
you've ever
work.
done any of these review panels, there's a lot of work.
It's so much. It's so much. It's so nice that they do it. We need it.
Your volunteers.
Then this was a new part that we added last year, which was our cultural events and celebrations. The work that Director Philippe has done to really activate City Hall has been a big part of that. And just, things like our International Dance Day, Women History Month event. What else do we have? Our 214 Day, those sorts of things. But then also Dallas Arts Month kickoff, right? We want to recognize the sort of key events, celebrations that we've had throughout the year. And so we'll include a page with a title and description of those events.
That the office hosts. I mean, there's a lot here just by that alone.
Yes. And of course, like if there we'll start compiling all this information as we move through this process, right? This is all, like I said, just copy. We're really going to start filling this out over the next couple of months, both in content and in data. And so as we bring forward our sort of staff recommendations of what to consider to add, please, this is the whole part of this process, is that we're making sure we're capturing our entire, the impact of everything. We forget things sometimes.
And there are new things to add. And if you've got sources of photography, we're welcome those as well.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
yes. Okay.
Great, moving forward. Oh, here we go. So before we talk about adjustments yet, this is also included in the annual report. And the way it was listed out in last year's report was, of course, the title of the goal, sort of what the goal was, and the metric that we would be looking at. Depending on how all of this evolves might depend on how we present this in the annual report. But of course, this is one of those required things to talk about your goals for next year. And so now we will talk about it. So the 5 goals, and I know that I mentioned this earlier, the idea of sort of keeping these relatively true to what they currently are, but maybe adjusting, what that goal is or what that metric should be. But we can also, as I've discussed with Chair Bedell, maybe update some of these, the titles of these to make them more easily understandable or accessible. Also, some of them relate to what those buttons or links look like when you're clicking them. So the titles in green in parentheses were just some thoughts that I had that I wanted to bring forward as a staff recommendation. Funding programs and cultural events engagement seemed too wordy and unclear. And so I think just talking about events and engagements is a nice way to put that. But again, deferring to y'all's judgment and thoughts on that. It could be really whatever you'd like. But the core of that being attending at least one program sponsored by OAC through a funding program, cultural center, or other cultural event at least once per quarter. So now we can go into the conversation of, is this too much? What are we talking about? And of course, that metric is to measure a commissioner going to one event that's OAC sponsored or supported once per quarter, right? So maybe we should take this one at a time, right? Okay.
So I thought that I needed to attend one event per quarter for each of the entities that I'm assigned to oversee. So I was like, oh my God, I'm going to 16 events a year. There's no way I'm going to be able to do this. So part of this was I needed a clarification.
Great.
But is this we need to attend any event that is sponsored by OAC of any organization or artist, or is it specifically the organizations that were assigned as the liaison?
Yeah, there's no set number that's required, but a decent effort to show that you know enough about the organization in which you are a liaison to comment and assist us in representing that they're using the city's money correctly.
Okay, so would it be better to say that we would like the commissioners to attend at least one program per year of the organizations to which they're assigned as a liaison, rather than say any OAC program? I think that's where my confusion came from.
Yes, if you are a liaison, then that's where we want to start. But of
Okay.
course, we'd like you to attend anything that. you'd
Right.
like
I
to,
mean,
of course.
we have season tickets to all kinds of stuff. I attend
Yes.
all
Right,
kinds of things. But I think that if our goal for the commissioners is to show engagement with the organizations that we're funding, so we can say to the city, hey, our commissioners know what's going on with
Yes.
these major organizations, and they have attended this or that, then do we want to focus on saying not just anything sponsored by OAC, but the actual organizations that the commissioner has been assigned to?
Exactly.
Yes.
If I may.
So I think we need to tweak the language just a little bit to be more specific about that.
So if I may, not to throw a wrench in anything, a couple of things. You are correct. This was meant to be broad-based, not just organizations that a commissioner was a liaison to, because those are only our COP organizations, right? And I think one of the intents when we were talking about this last year was recognizing the prolific number of things that you as commissioners were going to throughout the year, not attempting to meet any sort of metric or goal, but just simply because of your natural inclination to be involved in the ecosystem. And so this trying to say, like, we know that you're already doing something, but let's measure that impact of what you're doing. And so I wonder if there's somewhere in the middle to meet here where because we also want to show that we're going to those individual artist events or our organizations that aren't part of COP, being out and about like you already are. And so I'm just throwing that in there just based off of my understanding of this particular goal.
So could we maybe down in the commission liaison reports say that we want you to go to at least one per quarter an event, anything sponsored by OAC, and let us know all the stuff you're going to. So if you have season tickets to this or that and you're going to
And
4
keep
things
in
a year,
mind,
then let's capture that. But
Yeah,
down in the, I'm sorry, what?
this is separate from the liaison engagement. I don't know. So this is kind of separate, and what precipitated this, Martine brought it to our attention that the staff would like to see commissioners at some of these events. So
Okay,
that's basically it. So we just want to be able to show that you support events that are supported by the Office of Arts and Culture. There's no, it's not a pass-fail, minimum requirement sort of thing. We just want to be able to show that we're supporting these events. But it is separate than the liaison engagement. I
Okay.
think that's at the end of this page.
So I
okay,
think-
then it may be that we just need a little bit of clarification on that, because especially as a new commissioner who's been around, just around a year or so, or less than a year, that's something that was a big confusion for me.
Yeah, I think
Duly
this is a
noted.
helpful oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Commissioner
I was just
Henderson.
gonna say, I think this is a healthy conversation and
Yeah.
helpful
Oh,
for
yeah.
me to understand. And I do like the way, I think it was you, Glenn, that put it, like, we're really just trying to convey the way our commissioners interact with this arts ecosystem throughout the city. And the metric is just a way to demonstrate that, like, our commissioners are interacting in a variety of different ways.
And I was going to say, we go to these things already, and it's basically noting it and putting it down. And so then we can gather that data, but we're already doing these things. When you go to a ribbon cutting for a piece of public art, the dog, there are probably 6 commissioners that were there.
Yeah.
That's a lot of fun. So the staff loves seeing the commissioners there. So when we, I think that's not a performance. It's not something I have season ticket. It's just something that I went to on a Tuesday morning at 10:30, and you're there, and then you can leave. But it's great to support, I think, staff as well. So I think that's part of it too. But then we do have our liaison reports. I do have a question though for Chair Small. One of the things that was brought up in one of the big meetings is, are we required to be, and I don't think this is the case anymore, but some of the older commissioners said that, who've been on the commission longer, that we're supposed to be attending our liaisons board meetings, which I'd never seen anything about, and we were
Yeah.
going to look into that. So I want to bring that up as we're talking
That
about
had
it.
never been brought to my attention,
Right.
but there are some boards that want that. And those boards will let the liaison know.
And
Yeah.
I was told by one of my organizations that I was not invited to attend their board meetings. Thank you very much. And I
There
was
you
like,
go.
oh,
Yeah, I
Great.
mean, it's up to that organization.
I would
so
think that
I basically
would-
told all my organizations, if you want me to come, great, send me the things. But if you don't want me there, that's fine too.
I think it should be an open board meeting and that you should be invited. I will say that in the event, since you are a liaison. So,
Well,
but I'm saying as far as our requirements, it's not required
it is
of
not
us.
required.
No.
It's up to that board.
Right, right,
If they want you there, they can invite you.
right. Okay. Okay. So that might come up again in one of our bigger meetings and conversations. So I just want to make sure we have that conversation offline here. So, okay.
So hearing some of this conversation back and forth, you know, looking at your attendance to a multitude of events, but then also looking to maybe engage with those events with your COP organizations, do we want to look at changing the definition and or metric of what this looks like? Once a quarter might be too stringent, right? You know, and we've received that feedback as well last year, even at the commission meeting. But maybe it's something, it could be something along the, and I know they're just goals and everything. Please.
Yeah, I think we had, to put it in proper perspective, we had a couple of commissioners that just didn't want to do the liaison reports, basically. And they looked at it, it was kind of like homework, and felt like if there was nothing to report, why should I fill out a liaison report if there was nothing to report? And, you know, once again, you know, we certainly took that to heart in revising some of these goals. And I don't think it's too stringent, you know? I mean, you know, if something's going on, you know, you go ahead and make the report and indicate that as a commissioner, you are paying attention to these organizations to which we are assigned, because we do have a duty as commissioners to kind of make sure that, you know, we're the eyes and ears to the council members to let them know that the city's money is being spent correctly. And this organization is doing a good job, or if you've got concerns about it, you might, I don't encourage you to put the concern in the liaison report, but if you're involved in the organization to where you see what's going on, then you could certainly have that discussion with staff.
So maybe then, if that's the case, clarifying, correct me if I missed, if I'm not going in the right direction, clarifying that this particular goal is not exclusive to COP liaison organizations, but encouraged to make sure that you are engaging with them as far as their artistic services side of things are, right? Am I capturing that appropriately? You don't have to do COP organizations, but it's highly encouraged that you do engage with those as a part of your efforts towards this particular goal.
Yes, I think it's a clarification of the
Got it.
language. I don't think it's necessary, because I mean, if you're an arts commissioner, for heaven's sakes, if you're not going to one art event a quarter, why are you on the commission? So I don't think that it's an overly burdensome thing. It's just getting people to fill out the form. I mean, I think that's the biggest problem. And I think that we need to add more detail to the and maybe it's not commission liaison reports, maybe it's COP communication, or maybe it's because really what we want is we want to know how are the commissioners communicating with their liaison organizations, and that they're giving a heads up that, yeah, things are thumbs up, everything's great, they're using the money the way they should, or you know. So I think it's a clarification of language. I don't think it's necessarily a change.
Okay.
Okay, I have a question to Ann. Are we looking at the same part of this piece of paper here? Because at the top where it has events and engagements, that's a different metric than at the very end where it
That's what I was
says
gonna say.
commission
Yeah,
liaison.
Yeah,
I'm talking about both things at the same time. I apologize for that.
okay.
And
So
I
the
think
events
that's what
and
I'm getting.
the events and engagement, I think maybe it's attend at least one program, at least attend any program sponsored by OAC, to make it clear that it's not just your liaison organization. And then I think we need to tweak the language on the commission liaison reports, so it's not homework focused, that it's more focused on the communication with the liaison organizations.
Okay.
So I am talking about two different things at the same time. I apologize for that.
So I think clarification of language for the events and engagements. Do we want to change that name, by the way, before I?
Yes.
To events and engagements? Okay, great.
Yes.
So we'll do that. Change name. Awesome. But since we're talking about, I'm sorry.
Sorry. And I think if we just make it clear that we're talking about attend anything sponsored by OAC at least once a
Great.
quarter.
Wonderful.
That makes it seem like super easy because we do it anyway.
Exactly, exactly. And so since we've sort of been talking about both, why don't we go ahead and talk about then organization liaison and engagement?
That's good.
Is that okay?
Yes.
Great. So in this particular instance, we've only been talking about the COP liaison reports, right? To submit at least one report per organization quarterly. So 4 reports essentially a year for each organization that you are a liaison with. And so I'm going to stop there because I know that we're sort of in mid-conversation around that. So we've been talking about liaison reports, the actual document to fill out, that you've engaged with them, probably maybe more in an administrative way, but do we want to broaden this language as well based on what I'm listening to?
I'll comment. I think that's a reasonable goal. I mean, nobody's gonna, get kicked off. In fact, you can't be kicked off as a commissioner unless there's, cause. And certainly this is not cause to kick somebody off, but it's a reasonable goal. Is somebody gonna take a bat to your knees because you didn't meet the goal? The answer is no. But it is I think that's a reasonable goal. And we're discussing things that we've already kind of said we're okay anyway. So
Okay.
I don't know that we need to.
And the form has been simplified as well as opposed to the old form. So it's really easy.
Well, and if I may,
So are we asking commissioners? So I've got 4 liaison organizations. Are you asking me to submit 4 reports every quarter? So 16 a
Yes.
year.
Yes.
Okay.
so clarifying some of that language then, but also what we could do that doesn't change this, but creates it as a part of the liaison report. Do we feel like adding, not a huge section, but adding a section there that also says, like, did you attend an event as a part of this report? So you can report, it doesn't have to be this huge, you see what I'm saying? So it doesn't have to be about like, I went to a board meeting or, I had a phone call per se, right? But if you did attend an event for one of your COP organizations, as you're filling out this report, you can say, I went to an event. And you can talk about the event if you wanted to. And maybe as a part of that interaction, you spoke with someone at that organization to give you some form of update as a part of that.
Yeah.
I have a question too on this, on the liaison specifically. Have we
Yes.
received any feedback from any of the recipients about like their interaction with us? Like, is 4 too much for them? Like, is that a cumbersome expectation to expect that they would find time quarterly to interact with us to also provide that? Because, I know in some cases interacting with, let's say, a funder, you might interact maybe annually or twice a year, but do we have any feedback from them about this process?
You know what?
That's a good question.
We don't. And that is a very good question. And I will work with Drea and we'll see what we can do to find, and Julia, since she works closely with these organizations, to see if we do have some feedback to receive from these organizations. That's really wonderful.
But sometimes they love grabbing coffee. They love
Mhm.
grabbing coffee with you and just 30 minutes and just, hey, give us an update on what's going on. I've done that.
Yeah. And we may not get responses from everyone, but we might take a little sample from those that we know are going to be able to give us something a little bit quicker so we can have something ready to go. I think that's really wonderful. Thank you, Commissioner Henderson. I appreciate that.
Just wondering because I don't want us to set the 4 just with us and our input. Like if on the other end they're saying, hey, actually we need some more time in between these conversations to give you a more substantial update. I think
maybe
something
twice a
inquiring
year
about.
instead of
Yeah.
quarterly, 2 times a year. I think we could even
I
put that
love
in.
that idea.
I
I
think that's-
absolutely love it.
I think that's really great. I'm getting chills just thinking about it. But 2 times a year, we discussed that. And so, but absolutely. And, the most trouble I ever get in work is because I didn't engage enough. So with our communities to tell us what they actually need or their responses. So thank you.
Do you have a
Here's
thought on that, Chair
yes, I
Small?
have a question. This goes out to Glenn and Drea. Is there any way we could use liaison reporting to help with the, you say, proving up the proper expense, say like for hot tax or anything? Like, is there any way, or are your policies and procedures that y'all are gonna do, is it just totally on your own research, or do you want us to assist with that?
That is something that is done through an application or a final reporting process, or it's done more administratively that I don't
This
think
would
that,
have nothing to do with that.
I don't think we should intersect that, and I'm not sure it would be appropriate to do so.
Okay.
We just lost quorum, which is fine. We just have to pause.
Okay.
No business action.
There we go. Okay,
Are you back with us? We can't,
yes, technically, yes.
you're on mute, Ann.
Sorry, it started raining, so I needed to close a door.
Oh, is it
okay.
raining?
Oh, rain, what is that? I don't know. Is that like that wet stuff? It's like.
Is it
That-
raining?
To be
Okay.
clear and for the record, I never actually left the room. I just ran over to
Oh,
close the door.
okay. I will say, Commissioner Henderson, you've made me think also about getting feedback from our recipients and maybe having some quotes from them in our annual report. So that's another thought when you brought that up, because,
I love
funding
that
is
idea.
so critical for them. And this funding, because it is operations, it makes such a difference. They don't have to do a specific program. So it means a lot to our COP folks to have
Yep.
to have this funding. It's
Ye-
critical.
And you know what we can do, since we have the time to do so, I can work with Julia for the current year final reports for COP. I can have her do two things. One is to find some way to structure, provide us some feedback on how the support helped you, craft the question appropriately so we hopefully get some nice things to include in the report on how our support helps these organizations, and also feedback on on liaisons, since we work with them so directly to assign all of you to it. So that might actually give us exactly what we need as we move forward.
Okay.
Okay, great.
Thank you for the great ideas, everyone.
On feedback. All right. Cool. All right, where was I? So maybe as a part of our conversation at commission, we'll talk about quarterly versus twice a year, or do you want to just say twice a year as this group?
Do you feel like that's more palatable?
I think twice a year is more palatable, but I would like to hear back from some of the organizations just to find out. I mean, if there are a couple, we could just poll.
Yes, we'll do we'll do a hard and fast poll as quickly as we can, but we'll also include it to have something of substance from all of our organizations by the end of that reporting process.
But I think twice a year makes sense, because I mean, a lot of them have kind of a school year sort of season,
Mm-hmm.
and there's not a
Very
lot
true.
going on in the summer, and the holidays get crazy. So, and then also, if you can do, two this quarter, I mean, then you can go, okay, these are the two I'm going to focus on right now, and then I'm going to focus on these two the next time. And so it helps the commissioners with sort of planning out their to-do list, so to speak.
I think that does help us in our strategy. So thank you. I think it is more palatable, and I think we'll get less pushback from people, and it feels doable. Yes. And you do make a good point about a lot of the programming is school year programming, and summertime is hard. And did you get a surprise visitor?
I mean, lightning just struck like right outside the house. I mean,
Oh, goodness. Oh, we couldn't hear it.
Sorry.
Okay. Okay, well, I do like these, and I think these will work revamp.
Yes.
these.
Yes. I think I'm under the understanding of what we're looking for. As far as the title of this particular goal, what would you like to do with this one? So
Fine.
as
Commission liaison reports, you mean?
keep it, like changing it to commission liaison reports or commissioner liaison reports. Okay, great. We do need to look at the other three.
Yes.
Access to facilities and resources, my recommendation might be to change that to access to spaces and venues. I think that's just a clearer message
Yeah.
as a title. And this one, identify a space and or venue for artist organizations across all city council districts to maintain an expanded list of those spaces. So it's a means of us as both as staff, we try to collect those. And then you as commissioners, because again, you're out and about looking at things that we don't necessarily all intersect at, to give us an idea of space, because it's such a high need and high priority in our cultural plan as well. And the metric being that a commissioner provides one of those spaces, which includes maybe a website and an address that we can add to that list. So if our organizations are having trouble finding somewhere to do something, that we can give them a resource. I'll stop there.
And this came about a few years ago, and this actually came from actually liaison reports from my memory is that, a lot of the COP groups and other Arts Activate people, they didn't have a place to perform. There was just a shortage of space. So that's what our commissioners were telling us. So that's how this became a goal.
Any revisions to this particular goal?
I think it's pretty clear.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
do like access to spaces and
Great.
venues, yes.
New name. All right. Communication and collaboration. The core of this is to stay within regular communication with your council member. So my recommendation might be to change it to council member communications, clearer in messaging. Maintain regular engagement with the city council members regarding public art projects and other arts and cultural events in their district. There's actually no specific number metrics to how many of this, but if and when you do communicate with your council member, that you let us know, if there's anything to let us know about that meeting, right? They're really happy about an event that we had. Hey, they're not seeing a lot going on in their district. They like to see more, things like that, I think was the intention behind it. So I'll hand that over.
I like the new name.
New name.
Yeah.
I like the new name. I don't have any changes.
Wonderful.
So
Great. And committee participation. No new name. This made sense to me, at least. Attend a standing or ad hoc committee meeting other than the one assigned to stay engaged with all commission activities. I think it's one per year.
I think Commissioner Henderson will get the Heisman Trophy.
Yes, he will. He's doing it now.
I would actually argue that it should be 2 per year, because attending one other meeting and just sitting on mute when, I mean, I think it should be 2 per year, but I'm happy to keep it at 1.
If we have more, then it's all the better.
And there will be people who do they're learners like Commissioner Henderson. He wants to see what other people are doing and what's happening. So I think they'll naturally want to do that. Okay, I think we're good to go on that one.
I'm not. Do we want to change? Do we want to keep it at 1, or are we changing it to 2?
I think we'll keep
One
it
is
at
fine.
1.
Keep it at
Yeah,
1.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
we'll keep it at 1.
All
We're
right.
just saying what we'd like, but
There you go.
I can understand.
Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to summarize my notes and what I've heard from you as a means of prepping you for a voting item. Okay. The first goal, we're going to change to events and engagements. We're going to broaden language for a description to any program supported or sponsored by OAC, and continuing that text, not exclusive to COP organizations, although highly encouraged to make that as a part of that one. Okay. Access to facilities and resources, will change the name to access to spaces and venues. Nothing else changes there. Communication and collaboration will change to council member communications. No change there. Committee participation, description and metric, no change there. And then our commission liaison reports, we'll talk about 2 times a year. The metric, of course, being a submission of 2 liaison reports per assigned organization throughout the 26-27 fiscal year. Sorry, that should be updated there. Of course, like I said, we'll change up the form to add a little bit extra if you attend an event there as well.
So, do we have a motion?
I move.
Okay. Very good. Any discussion, which we've already had? Okay. Anyone oppose? All in favor? The motion passes.
Great.
Thank you.
All right. The rest should be pretty quick now. Okay, cool. Thank y'all for that wonderful work. That's really great. So continuing on in the content of our annual report, we'll have a photo glossary, which has seemed to be much more effective than having the full text of, what we're looking at a photo in the photo. And then we have an appendix. The appendix will have our goals and objectives for this current fiscal year, right? We just talked about what they're going to be for next year because that's part of what we need, but we'll talk about them for this year. And then we do a massive pull of everything that we funded in all the activities at the different cultural centers. So COP will list out all of the organizations, and typically we list out also their funding allocation. Arts Activate for all 3 rounds. We'll list out the project or the organization or artist, the project and project description, and the funding allocation. Same for CAP, artist or organization, their funding allocation. Culture value, same for both of those. For community arts, we'll list out the totality of the community arts, those major events and things like that they've done. If there's more than what we've already listed, especially, including their the residencies and the list of those and those descriptions. And then we list out the cultural venues and the programs that they did throughout the year. And then, of course, the final item of that would be not in the appendix, we include in here the minority or dissenting report at the very end as well. If there is one, if there's not, we state that there is not one. That's the content.
And then it's a wrap, yeah. So
All right, we did it.
there's just a lot of data that, and I know you now can appreciate the work that the staff does in collecting the data, and it really is a team effort across all the staff members, pulling together the data, and getting these reports together. And I will say the first time, I think that when I was new on the commission, the annual report actually looked just like this. It was just like, it was a printed text, no photography. It was just really, so we have come a long way, but we have a long way to go too. So, but we've had great, I mean, Adriana last year, and now we've got Drea, and of course Glenn has been shouldering a lot of this, and he does such a great job. So I want to thank
Thank you.
the staff for the hard work and the excellent work that they do. So, there's any other questions or concerns?
Do you have anything else?
I don't, no, I don't have, we do have a couple spots open on our committee. And I think we've got one that's going to be committing, I think. So I don't,
And the new person will will certainly be here as well. So, yeah, if anybody wants to step up and
Mhm.
be on this committee, a la Commissioner
Henderson.
No, there's no eye contact whatsoever right now.
If you want to be more than a visitor to this committee, take a step.
Let me
You might-
circle back. I'll
Wait,
let you know.
You might
Okay,
as well, you've already done most of the work.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, there, you wouldn't believe how much proofing there is to do. So if you've got an eagle eye, and we're going to really miss Linda Blaze, who had termed out, because she really caught so many things that the rest of us did not catch. So we're going to miss her. But I feel like, Anne, I feel like you're going to step in and do that very well as well. So that's all we have. So
I'll do the best I can.
okay.
All right.
Well, this meeting of the annual report committee is now adjourned at 5:47. Okay, thank you,
Great.
folks.
Thanks, y'all.
Enjoy
job.
that rain in Colorado. Oh,
Enjoy it.
I'm
Oh,
so jealous here.
I appreciate y'all. Thank you so much.
okay, bye,
Okay.
guys.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Thank you for that, though.
Thank you for doing that.
Great. Wonderful.
Lynn, thank
We'll
you.
meet it.
You just